the way that you can actually really embody the astrology is to take it literally in your body. And that is really the first step that I always teach my clients, is because yes, we are talking about planets that are outside of ourselves, but all of these energies, all of these different movements and understandings are present within us. They awaken something within us, and that experience is very unique to you. Welcome to the Astrology as a Strategy podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Banassi. I'm on a mission to help you amplify your influence so you can free up time to spend with your family while increasing your revenue. I'm an astrologer, business mentor, an adventure seeker, and a proud mama of 3 kids. Think of this podcast as your shortcut to more joy and ease in your business. Running a business is joyful, and when you're not having fun, you haven't cracked the code yet, but that's about to change. I share practical and short tools how to use astrology in your business and life. So let's get started on using your energy strategically to make a bigger impact, have more free time, and grow your wealth. Does astrology feel complicated, overwhelming, and just not practical at all? Well, then this is your episode, because I'm going to share with you a very simple practice that you can use to apply astrology in a very practical way in your everyday life. When most people start learning about astrology, they start getting into the new and the full moons. And at one point, they're able to create these beautiful ceremonies or rituals around the moons. But apart from that, it's very hard to apply it in your everyday life. Now, the coaches and the service providers that I work with are not necessarily interested in doing rituals every single day, all day long, to understand the astrology. It is really a way to use it in a practical way that actually is going to make a difference. But before I get into the actual practice, let me just take you on a little journey and something that a lot of people misunderstand about astrology. Now, yes, astrology talks about the planets that are out there, which is something outside of ourselves, and we follow the different movements of the planets, and they give a lot of information about the energy and how we perceive the energy. But a lot of people think that it is a practice that is out there. And while we use it as a map, you can actually see it as it's the cosmos out there, but it reflects the cosmos within ourselves. Everybody is born with a very unique blueprint. You are very unique because there's no other person in this world that is born on the same day, at the same time, at the same place. Even when you're twins, there is a slight difference in time, which is a whole different topic, which I will cover in another episode. But you are unique. So even though the planets are moving and everybody is experiencing that movement of the planets, you are experiencing it on a different level because your personal blueprint is different. The way that you can actually really embody the astrology is to take it literally in your body. And that is really the first step that I always teach my clients, is because yes, we are talking about planets that are outside of ourselves, but all of these energies, all of these different movements and understandings are present within us. They awaken something within us, and that experience is very unique to you. There's no other person in this world who is having exactly the same experience as you, which is partly because of your internal landscape, as well as what is around you, what is your environment. So the practice that I want to share with you today literally only takes about 5 minutes a day. And it is going to make such a big difference with how you understand what is going on. This practice is actually establishing a baseline, an understanding of what is going on and how you feel. Because you can never make a change or shift your mindset or perspective if you don't know where you are at right now. Now, in the self-help world, there's a lot of focus on using different tools, different practices outside of yourself that actually take you away from yourself. And very often astrology is actually used for that, to kind of escape and not acknowledge what is going on the inside, in your internal landscape. So what I want you to do is every single day, in the morning and in the evening, have a journal on your nightstand and write down how you feel. Yep, it sounds that easy, but actually it's that easy. I want you to write in your journal when you wake up in the morning. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? But mostly, how does it feel in your body? Does your body feel tight? Does your body feel relaxed? Do you feel energized? Do you feel grounded? Do you feel like your head is exploding with ideas? Write that down. Before you go to bed, do exactly the same thing, but then reflect on how the day went. What projects went well? What are the things that flowed out of you really easily and effortlessly? What are the things that took a little bit more effort? And what were the things that you absolutely hated doing that day? When you've written that down, cross-reference that with where the moon is at and what phase the moon is in. Now, this is a little bit layered. For the people that are just started with astrology, I would highly encourage you to just look at the sign that the moon is in. So for instance, if you have a very energized day and you were very active, but you weren't really into administrative things or looking at accounting, on a day when the moon is in Aries, make sure that you set time apart to let that creativity and that enthusiasm run wild. And don't force yourself to do any tasks that don't feel in alignment with how you feel. If you know a little bit more about astrology, you can also look at the moon phases. Around a new moon, your intuition is a little bit heightened. You're able to get downloads. Around a full moon, your creativity is higher, feel more expressive, but also more emotional. This is general, what I'm telling you right now. I want you to start understanding how your body, how your mind, how your emotions respond to the different moon phases. Because I can tell you that when a full moon, let's say in Taurus, you probably feel the need for security. Maybe you feel unstable. Maybe you feel unsafe. I can tell you that. And most likely, some of it is really true for you. But if you start to understand it in your body, start to feel, okay, so how does my body respond when we have a full moon in Taurus? Then you start to understand what it is that you need to do in order to feel supported and nourished and taken care of. And when you start tracking this for at least 2 months, you can start to cross-reference how you feel when the moon is in a certain sign or how you feel when the moon is in a certain phase. What that gives you is a way to prepare yourself for what is going to come up. Now, for instance, for me, a Scorpio moon is always very intense. Now, Scorpio is a very intense sign in general, but my natal moon is in Taurus, which is a fixed sign. Scorpio is fixed water sign. So it kind of clashes with my need for stability and security, where Scorpio really likes to dive deep and go into the darkness and the unconscious. Taurus likes to stay rooted and safe up on the earth. I know that. So when I see that a Scorpio moon is coming up, I usually inform my loved ones that this might be a little bit of an intense day. And if they see me go into this space of darkness, to just let me be. To not have a conversation or to really try to dissect what is going on. It is something that I am aware of. Because I know that when the moon is in Scorpio, I need to be able to go into the depths of my own unconscious, and I cannot take care of others too much that day. So I make sure that my husband knows that. I make sure that if the kids want to go on a play date, I make sure that I bring them somewhere else. This also applies for the full moon. Like my son, he's very sensitive to the full moon and usually wakes up at night. So I know that when there's a full moon, I go to bed early, I sleep early, so that when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm not so exhausted, even like a bit annoyed that I wake up in the middle of the night. This is something that I know is going to happen. And even when it doesn't happen, even when he doesn't wake up at night, I make sure that I get a full night's sleep. Or, well, I have a baby, so the nights are never a full night of sleep. But I make sure that I am rested and that I can handle what is happening and what is going on. And the reason why I always tell people to start with this practice is, again, it is not what is happening outside of you. It is the response that you have within your body. Now, in the patriarchal society, we're not really encouraged to embody things, to really feel things in our body. Our bodies, especially for women, is described as something unpredictable, as something that we can't really grasp and is just happening to us. Instead of that mindset, I want to encourage you to shift that into understanding how extremely powerful your body is because it's unpredictable. And actually, to a big extent, your body is very predictable. But there's also this part where we're responding to the moon, where we are responding to the other different planets, where we can actually flow with that because we're not static beings. We are in flow. We experience things on different levels, and we're taught that that's a bad thing, but that's actually our superpower. That is what helps us to be creative, to be caring, to be nurturing, to really open up. So when you do this practice, it is really about reclaiming your right, reclaiming your birthright of embodying things, feeling things. I mean, look at kids, especially the young ones. They just experience the world through their senses. They feel things in their body when it's difficult or tight, or when it's opening up, when it's exciting. They are not bothered by what it should look like, what it should feel like, what it should do. They just do it because they're only concerned with the being. We are concerned with the doing and the having, but kids are really just living in the being state. This practice will help you to get into that being state first, because you need to be first in order for you to do things, in order for you to have things. Not the other way around, which we are taught. You need to have things so you can do things, so you can be a certain person or a certain way. Turn that around. This practice will help you to flip that upside down, to understand your value, your worthiness, that is based on the experience that you have. Because every single emotion, every single feeling, every single thing that you're experiencing is valid. Now, we're taught that there are good and bad feelings. There is nothing good or bad. Every single feeling is a feeling. Every single emotion is an emotion. The way that you are experiencing it is your experience. No one can tell you whether that is good or bad. But we need to come back to our bodies to feel when things feel expansive or when things feel contracting. So instead of labeling it as good or bad, label it as, this feels expansive. This feels really good in my body. Or this feels very contracting. This feels limiting. This feels that I'm smaller than that I really am. But you need to feel it first for yourself. No one can tell you whether it's good or bad. Nobody can tell you or put labels on that. But you need to take time and take it serious in order to really understand what your body is doing, how you are responding to different things that are happening around you. So yes, the astrology can give you an extremely good insight into why things are coming up, why things are pushed to the forefront instead of just rolling off your shoulders. We need to come back to our body first, and then we add the layer of astrology to that. Now, one thing that I really encourage you is to have a planner or to look on an app to make sure that what the moon is doing and where it's at. Now, personally, I really love the Magic of Eye planner, which is really good at looking at where the moon is, as well as the very important transit and movements of the planets. Or you can use a different app that tells you where the moon is at, because I want to make it as easy as possible for you. You don't need to make it complicated. You don't have to study astrology. This is really about embodied experience of astrology. So, your practice for the next at least 2 months is to have a journal on your nightstand. Write down in the morning What type of energy do you get up with? How do you feel? And remember, no judgment. This is simply about allowing yourself to register how you feel, not to judge, not to change. This is to register it. In the evening, at the end of the day, you write down what felt good today, what felt expansive, what felt exciting, what felt a little bit difficult and that I had to push myself to do it. Again, no judgment there. Simply observe. This is how I felt. This is what was going on. And the more that you do it, you actually start to create an amazing system of understanding what you should do when. And this is where the astrology as a strategy part comes in. Planning your months ahead, you can use this practice to look back and understand what works well for you and what doesn't. And now it's up to you. I can't wait to hear your experiences with writing these things down. Start to document how you feel and understand what the experience is like in your body and in your personal life. Connect with me on social media. Let me know. Tag me in your posts because I love to hear how this is working out for you. Thank you so much for listening to the Astrology as a Strategy podcast again. I love to hear your insight from this episode. Screenshot and tag me on Instagram in your stories or on your feed. You will inspire others to have more joy and ease in their business, and I love to see who's listening. One last thing. I love creating free content for you. Would you like to do something in return? Go to iTunes, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps the podcast to be found more easily so this message can reach more people. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you next time.